Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavatpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Bhadram Karneभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैस्तुष्टुवागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om, salutations to all. So we saw that Sukesha wants to know about the Shodashakala Purusha, and he goes to Pippala the Rishi and explains to him the whole context and asks him about the Shodashakala Purusha, because he does not know about Shodashakala Purusha, and Prince Hiranyanabha came to ask him about that. So he explained to the prince and convinced him that he doesn't know really, and if he knew he would have said. And so he approaches Pippalaja Rishi after that to know about the Shodashakala Purusha. And in the second mantra then we saw Tasmai Saho Vacha. To him Pippalaja Rishi said, Iha eva anta sharire somya sa purushaha. That Purusha is here itself in this body. Yasmineta Shodasha Kalaha Prabhavanti iti, from which these 16 kalas they manifest. What are the 16 kalas they manifest? That will come in mantra 4. But the point to understand here is the 16 kalas, Shodasha Kala, they represent the creation, the effect. And that effect is perceptible, it is easy to see, but the cause is not known. The question about Shodashakala Purusha is to understand the cause. This Shodashakala, so this entire world is called Jagat Brahma. We don't think the world as inert matter. We think of the world as appearance of the divine. So this entire world is called Jagat Brahma, or it is the Vishwarupa of the Lord. But Jagat Brahma cannot be explained or understood without knowing the Karana, Jagat Karana Brahma. If the cause is divine, that is how the effect also will be divine, because the effect is nothing but cause in another form. Now, if I think that the effect is inert matter, then from there the world will come out as the effect. If the cause is inert matter, then the world is also inert. And so one thinks that 5 elements are the source of this world, and one goes on probing matter. Vedanta says no, the cause of the world is not inert, the cause of the world is a sentient entity. And so this understanding that through the creation, one is wanting to know the source, the creator, and creation is exhibiting sentiency. So the source has to have sentiency. So the Jagat Karana Brahma has to be understood before Jagat, before we actually appreciate that Jagat also is appearance of Brahman. And hence we see in the second mantra, the Rishi, Pipalada Rishi, he says this, that sa Purushaha Yasmin etaha shodasha kalaha prabhavanti. That Purusha from which these 16 kalas come. He didn't say that as a part of these 16 kalas, you will see ahead it will come, are the 5 elements. So 5 elements are a part of creation. And what is a part of creation, what is created, cannot be the ultimate source of the entire creation. It can only be one cause, if at all. It will be only the material cause of the creation. But beyond that, nothing more. And so it is important to understand that 5 elements cannot be the cause of the creation. Here he says, Sa Purushaha. Is that Purusha from whom this entire creation appears. Yasmin etaha shodashakalaha prabhavanti iti. Now, if that is understood clearly, the question then is, how does this creation appear from that Purusha? In the second mantra, we also saw the discussion went about into deep sleep and those aspects that we covered. After finishing all that, we again came back to the this connecting portion, if you see, between the second and the third mantra. From there we will pick up again. So here Shankaracharya says, Yasmin etaha shodashakalaha prabhavanti iti uktam. Purusha visheshenartham kalanam prabhavaha sacha anyartho api shrutaha kena kramena syad iti ataha idam uchyate chetana purvika cha srishtihi iti evam artham cha. Very important connection. The creation comes out of this Purusha, and one aspect the mantra says, Iha eva anta sharire. Where is that Purusha? Here only, in this very body. Not that Purusha is somewhere up there, who is sentient and then who has created the creation. The mantra says, Iha eva anta sharire sa Purushaha yasmin etaha shodashakalaha prabhavanti. So that Purusha is in one's own heart. How? Iha eva anta sharire means this gross body. Then there is the mind, which is the subtle body. And that mind is able to function because of the presence of consciousness. All the 3 bodies, gross, subtle, causal body, are able to function because of consciousness. And hence that what we also see again in the law of cause and effect, the effect is nothing but cause in another form, and effect pervades the cause pervades the effect. So in that same way, the infinite consciousness is appearing as this whole creation, and where it can be experienced, iha eva anta sharire, in one's own heart. So now he says here, Yasminetaha Shodasha Kalaha Prabhavanti, that from which these 16 kalas manifest, that was said, Iti Uktam, Purusha Visheshen Artham. This is to explain the speciality of Purusha, meaning the source of creation is sentient. This is one of the biggest differences between science and Vedanta. First major difference between science and Vedanta is Vedanta says creation never came about. Science thinks creation is real. Second, if at all I am seeing creation, Vedanta says it is an appearance. It is not real. For science, it is very real. If it is an appearance, then it is an appearance of what? It is an appearance of Brahman. Brahman is a sentient cause, the intelligent cause. The 5 elements are the material cause. Maya is the instrumental cause. Brahman is the intelligent cause. But science says only 5 elements are the cause of the universe. There is no instrumental cause, there is no intelligent cause. So this mantra is saying here, Purusha Visheshen Artham Kalanam Prabhavaha. These 16 kalas are arising from that Purusha. How do you say that? Because the sentiency in the creation cannot be a product of inert matter. The wheel and the mud by itself cannot combine to become the pot. Inert matter by itself cannot mix in any random order to form the creation and the sentiency in the creation. Which is what science may be attempting to find out, that certain particular combination of the matter and then we can create life. Not possible. Consciousness is required for that. So the intelligent cause is very important. Without the potter, the mud and the wheel cannot make the pot. Also the laws that are governing the universe. Law of cause and effect itself is not a law created by inert things. One may think like that. The fourth difference between science and Vedanta is that science thinks the creation is random. Vedanta says it is not random. It follows the law of karma. We will see the third mantra will explain more elaborately, so I will come to it at that time. So the laws that are there in the universe also are not products of inert matter. They are the creations of a sentient, intelligent entity. By itself, 5 elements cannot come together and create laws of the universe. Nor is it accident that, okay, gravity is there and electromagnetism is there and motion is there and all that. It is not creation of 5 elements. There has to be an intelligent cause. If one says, no, inherent in the matter is the gravitational force, what makes it happen like that? How does it get enforced? Those questions one doesn't have answers to. Also, the fact is, if we say that 5 elements by themselves, they come together and create the whole universe, we are saying the inert produces sentiency. That itself is illogical. Inert cannot produce sentiency in any combination. Even in Indian school of thought, there is that Charvaka philosophy which believes in this. Green betel leaf, brown supari and white chuna. If you bring this together, red color will come. So in some permutation combination, you mix 5 elements, you can create life. There is no God required. There is no God. Ultimate reality is what is perceptible. That's Charvaka philosophy. So what life after death? What law of karma? What morality? None of this exists. Eat, drink, and be merry. That's all. Now that view is a very limited view. So many questions one will not be able to answer. Everything is random in that. Then why is it there so much order in the society, in the creation itself? A mango seed will only give a mango fruit. So much law of cause and effect is functioning. So many of these laws, how they are functioning, who is the creator of these laws, how is it enforced? A law means an enforcer, law creator, law enforcer has to be an intelligent entity. And every jiva getting the results of their karma also is a proof that there is a sentient intelligent cause which ensures that the jiva's karma gets the karma phala. So that's the meaning here. Purusha Visheshenartham Kalanam Prabhavaha. These 16 items have come out from the Purusha, who is a sentient entity. Sacha Anyarthopi Shrutaha. Kena Kramena Syad Iti Ataha Idam Uchyate. And now, it was said earlier that Yasmin Netaha Kalaha Prabhavanti. From this Purusha, the 16 kalas, they arise, the creation comes forth. So in what order it comes forth? What is the process of creation? That is what the next mantra will explain. Kena kramena syad ityatah idam uchyate. Hence this is being said now in the next mantra. Chetana purvika cha srishtihi. This is most important. The creation is sentient. Chetana purvika cha srishtihi. To explain to us, creation is sentient as well as the creator is sentient. Both are very important. Purusha is a sentient entity from whom the 16 kalas come, and then the creation also is sentient because it has come from the sentient. Chetana purvika cha srishtihi. These are things to be marked very clearly. The big difference between science and Vedanta. And most of the debate about God and the existence of God, etc., happens only on the basis of limited view of science and focusing on matter or focusing on one particular form to reject that form, saying God is not required to run the universe. That's a limitation because the scientists, many have not come to understand Vedanta properly, and then they reject a certain ideology which they have been exposed to about God. And then they say, yes, God, there is no God, etc. But if one comes to Vedanta, understands consciousness, etc., it is a very, very important aspect. Their whole perception will change. I'm just going to share one quote of one scientist. One minute. Okay, so here it is. See this. Now, what does he say? Matter and energy are two sides of the same coin. They are not two distinct entities at the subtlest level, opines a great physicist, Hans Peter Dewar, emeritus president of the Max Planck Institute in Munich. Max Planck is the one who is the founder of this quantum physics, Heisenberg, Max Planck. So this is the president emeritus of this institute who succeeded Albert Einstein and Werner Heisenberg. trying to look at matter and at its subtlest level for the last 55 years, Hans Peter recently realized that there is no matter distinct from energy at that level. That vast omnipotent energy is the universal consciousness or God. Now see that understanding of God, how it changes. And we humans are but a tiny bit of that consciousness, the individual consciousness. You know, a lot of these movies and whatever, the Star Wars and so many other movies, where they say you are the star dust, meaning we are this body. That body is made up from the stars, you know, so we are all stardust in different forms. But we are not stardust, we are the source, absolute infinite consciousness. Forgetting our source, we have become this, identified with the BMI, and then there's a small individual consciousness, that ego that is there. That whole thing is illusion. So he says, whenever I give a lecture on quantum physics, I feel as if I am talking on Vedanta. I studied matter for the last 35 years only to find out that it does not exist. I have been studying something that does not exist. Exactly what Adi Shankara said long back from the Upanishads. That's an extra comment that he didn't say. All that you see doesn't exist. So that we have to understand those aspects, that if we want to prove God's existence, the valid means of knowledge is not science. The valid means of knowledge to prove God's existence, to understand the nature of God and then our connection to God, is only Vedanta. Like if I want to see the form, I have to use the means. The valid means is the eye. If I want to hear the sound, the valid means of knowledge is the ears. I cannot see the form with the ears and hear the sound with the eyes. It is not possible. It's a wrong means I'm using. So if I use science to prove whether God exists or not, I'm using a wrong means, because science works only on perception. And God is that which is beyond perception. Science thinks of matter as everything, or the creation as inert. Vedanta says, no, it is sentient. And then there are people who have experienced it also. There are proofs because of the experience of so many great Mahatmas. So anyway, coming back to this, the point is, Shankaracharya ji in his connecting Bhashya, he writes, Chetana Purvika cha Srishtihi iti evam artham cha. So that earlier when it said from the Purusha, these 16 kalas, they manifest, it is to prove that the entire Srishti is sentient because the cause is sentient. Now, how does one know that this Purusha is sentient? So here now, third mantra. Sa iksham chakre kasmin just 1 minute, in my book there is a printing mistake, I think. Sa ishans chakre kasmin aham उत्क्रांतो भविष्यामि कस्मिन् वा प्रतिष्ठिते प्रतिष्ठास्यामि इति. स ईशाम चक्रे meaning he desired, he thought. That itself shows that the source is sentient, where inert things cannot think. Now again, please remember, this is in the context. When we see the Shodashakala Srishti, if we see Jagat Brahma, then the Jagat Karana Brahma has to be there. And that Jagat Karana Brahma cannot be anything else than absolute truth. Though by itself, the absolute truth is changeless and cannot produce anything, does not produce anything. There is no creation in that absolute level. we are not at that absolute level. We are at one level below this. The reality is given to the creation. So if the creation is real, there has to be a creator, and that creator cannot be anything other than the infinite consciousness, because if there is something else, then it limits the infinite consciousness, and then one will say, who is the cause of that? Then who is the cause of that? It will go infinite regress. The ultimate source has to be one infinite consciousness alone. Now, this mantra is to say that this infinite consciousness is not an inert thing, it desired, which is also to say that the creation does not happen randomly, because what did it desire? It will come in the bhashya ahead. It desired to make a creation as per the earlier cycle of creation when it ended, meaning the law of karma. Based on that, the jivas have to get the karma phala. So that infinite consciousness by itself, which has no creation, no duality, using the power of Maya, becomes that Ishvara. That Ishvara is that Purusha, Supreme Purusha, from where this whole creation comes about. Not as per his random thought, ki, okay, let me create anything and anyhow. Based on the karmas of the jiva, the srishti is made. So that is the meaning, sa iksham chakre. And also he thought, what? Kasmin aham utkranta utkranto bhavati. Bhavishyami. What is that which if it departs, life will depart from that being? And kasmin va pratisthite pratishthasyami. And what if it is there, life will remain? In the body, what if it remains? Body will be alive, meaning I will be alive. That's why he says pratisthite pratishthasyami. And what if it departs? I will depart, meaning the body will be dead. In the 15th chapter, that shloka comes, Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudha nanu pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. Utkramantam, when it leaves the body. Sthitam vapi, when it stays. Bhunjanam, when it is enjoying the experiences of the world. Or gunanvitam, when it becomes identified with the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. Vimudha nanu pashyanti, the deluded ones don't see, they can't see. Pashyanti jnana chakshusha, those who have the eye of wisdom, they see. What? That it is consciousness alone who is going through all this. So in that way, now this Ishvara, he thought that what is that because of which the life will remain in the body, and what if it departs, life will not remain in the body? The answer is not given here. The answer we have to supply from the next mantra. If you see that next mantra, in that fourth mantra, it is at Sa Pranam Asrajata. So that we have to supply here. He created Prana because Prana is the most important aspect to keep this body alive. So if that infinite consciousness has to appear as a jiva, sentient entity, sentient being, the jiva, then prana is most important. So he creates prana first. Because as long as prana is there, we saw earlier also, if prana, that whole story came, if prana departs, then every organ starts getting suffocated, and then this body will die. The prana only thought of departing, it did not even depart. In that story, it comes there. So, important aspect here is that prana. Now, please remember, prana here does not mean consciousness. Prana here means the literal prana. 5 pancha pranas they are. because obviously consciousness cannot be created. Saha pranam asrijata does. So consciousness is not something that is created, it is eternally there. So prana here does not indicate consciousness. Prana here indicates the five pranas, the vital air. So even in the body of the, let us say in the fetus, in the body of the mother, the jiva associates with that fetus. The heartbeat will start, and then that jiva associates. So the prana is there in that body first. It is not that at conception itself that prana is functioning. No. It takes some time. I don't remember, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, some time it is. Then the heartbeat starts and the prana has associated. And then the jiva associates through that. So this prana is most important, which makes it possible for that infinite consciousness to appear as the jivas, the sentient beings. Without prana, the subtle body itself will not be able to reflect consciousness. Because prana is the vital energy which is required even by the mind. If one says that Chidabhas, infinite consciousness reflecting in the mind and intellect equipment in the subtle body, is the jiva, is the Mr. So and so. Now, who is that Mr. So and so? It is not possible without the presence of prana. The mind cannot function without prana's presence. The body cannot function without prana's presence. And that which keeps the mind connected to the body is the prana. This particular body is being utilized by one particular subtle body only. Sometimes it happens that somebody's subtle body possesses one, and so one says, oh, this person is possessed by a ghost or possessed by some other entity. That's a different that's an exception. But the point is that one body has only one subtle body, and that subtle body continues to associate with that gross body till the exhaustion of the karma of that gross body. What keeps that subtle body and this gross body together is the prana shakti. We saw all that earlier also, how that Udana Vayu is responsible for gathering all the faculties and ejecting out of this body, the various centers in the body where this five pranas, they function. So all that we saw. So the connection between the body and the mind is maintained only by prana. In the waking state also, dream state also, deep sleep state also. Of course, karma overrides everything. The moment karma is over, then prana will depart. So people drop the body even in sleep because karma got over. So prana collects everything and goes. So he says, what is that which will keep this prana, which will make the body stable and alive as long as it is there in the body, and which if it departs, the body will die. That is the prana. So this mantra has a few learnings. Learning number one is that creation is not, the cause of the creation is not an inert cause. That's why Iksham Chakre, 1. 2, the creation is not random. It is planned, it is thought. Now, when it is said it is thought, there are two aspects to understand here, Iksham Chakre. One aspect to understand is the general desire that Upanishads say, other Upanishads also explain about it, that infinite non-dual consciousness thought, let me become many. Ekoham bahusyamiti. I am one, let me become many. Sa ikshata lokanusruja iti. He desired that may I create lokas. That's a general desire, which is again that had come earlier also in the earlier chapters. It has come that how infinite consciousness desired. That time we saw in detail, so I will not explain those things now. The desire is not out of apurnata. That desire is an explanation for us because we think creation is real. Now, that is one aspect. So, Ikshan Chakra includes that. Now, if one has to become many by the will of the Lord, then is it happening randomly? No, it is happening following the laws of karma based on the previous cycle of creation. This next cycle of creation will come into being and it will not be random. So that is another difference between science and Vedanta. So science says that creation will be linear or sequential. Vedanta says no, it is cyclical. So science will say this creation is a constant state of expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. It keeps going like this. Vedanta says no, it is cyclical. Satyug, Tretayug, Dwapar Yug, Kali Yug, then Pralay. Again Satyug, Tretayug, Dwapar Yug, Kali Yug. So it will follow a law of karma. Each jiva will get results as per their karma and they will be born in the appropriate yugas, in the appropriate environments to exhaust their karma. So that entire foundation of life in Vedanta is this law of karma. And so the creator also is not independent to create anything randomly. That creator also creates the world as per the microcosms. So that's the blueprint. Gurudev used to say that you are the architect and God is your contractor. You submit the blueprint to the contractor through your thoughts and desires. We are giving the blueprint. This is what I want in my life. And every single moment we have this Purushartha Kshamata. We have the ability to put forth effort. So whatever thoughts I'm thinking, desires I'm entertaining, I am presenting the blueprint. While I'm exhausting my past karmas in this present life, I'm also creating new karmas and I am giving the blueprint. Some are very strong, some are weak. All those possibilities are there. But I am only giving. Now that creator has to create the whole creation based on this blueprint. Not that the creator cannot bypass it. Ishvara is Sarvashaktiman, Sarvagnya. Ishvara can do anything. But Ishvara himself created the law of karma and Ishvara follows that. So every jiva gets results according to law of karma. And the best part is Ishvara himself, though is never bound by law of karma, can choose to be bound by law of karma when Ishvara takes avatar. Avatar is never happening because of karma in any case. Avatar happens by Ishvara's will only. Ajopisan avyayatma bhutanam ishwaropisan prakritim swamadhisthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. He comes by his will, controlling the prakriti. Though he is unborn, unchanging, imperishable. Ajopisan avyayatma bhutanam ishwaropisan. But I am the Ishvara of all the beings. And as Ishvara, I control the Maya. So avatar of Bhagwan does not happen based on the past karma. It happens based on his will. But he chooses to follow karma. So if Dashrath Maharaj in his earlier life as Manu and Shatrupa have done a lot of tapasya and asked Bhagwan that we want a son like you, Bhagwan says, no, there is nobody like me, then I only have to be born as your son. And so I will be born. So then in that life as Dashrath and Kausalya, Bhagwan is born to them. So many causes are given for Bhagwan Ram's birth. Narad Muni gave a curse to Vishnu Bhagwan that you will be separated from your wife in one of your avatars. So Bhagwan honors that curse, and he says, okay. So in Ram Avatar, he is separated from Sita ji, and lots of examples like that. It is Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, and this Ravan and Kumbhakarna, and then the Shishupal and Dantavakra. They are none other than Jay and Vijay, the Dwarpals of Bhagavan Vishnu. And this Sanat Kumar curses them. So they are born as demons. Now to liberate them, Bhagavan himself comes. So law of karma, though the creator is not bound by it, the creator himself follows the law of karma. Then what to talk about the jivas? So the creation will happen based on that law of karma. That's why he says sa iksham chakre. That word iksham chakre has all these connotations. And what did he think? So one is the general desire that may I become many, so then the creation comes about. But that creation doesn't come about randomly, it comes about based on karma. Now if somebody says, oh, so what was the first creation? That question only is wrong. Because there is no first creation. The creation is a beginningless. Our mind keeps on wanting to know first, because we think of time and we think of everything sequentially. Vedanta says creation is beginningless and endless. There is no first creation. Endlessly it has been going on, beginningless it is, so there have been jivas. And these jivas, they have done karmas in the past. And it will continue as per their karma. The new cycles of creation will keep on happening. Pralay will happen. Again a new cycle will come. This process will go on. Because the question first creation means we think creation is real, first of all. Now if there is a first creation and creation is real, then that means that the creator is not infinite. Because how can that infinite cause produce anything? Now if I'm thinking the effect is real, then the cause has produced it. Then the cause is no more infinite. So a lot of the logical fallacies will arise. And another point to understand is time itself is a part of the creation. How can we measure the first creation when time was not there? Time itself is a part of creation, and whenever creation is not there, time is not there. So what is before creation? So what was the first creation, when it happened, is not possible to know. So all those logical fallacies will arise. So here, Sa Iksham Chakre means that creation is not random, creation is this thing is proving that creator is a sentient entity, it is not inert, it follows the laws of karma. And then it also, there is a sequence that is shown. That sequence we will see in the next mantra, it will come. But before that entire sequence happens, the first thing that is created is prana. So the importance of prana, that how this prana is that because of which the life is there in the living being. And this whole creation, if there are no living beings, then that creation only is waste. That is one more implication of this mantra. For whom is the creation done then? Like a house is built. It is built for whom? It is built for some living beings to stay there and enjoy that house. House by itself is jada vastu, it is inert. Until there is a living entity, there are people who will go and stay in that house, utilize that house. There is no purpose of that house. And who builds that house? If that house is built, that house came into existence because of some living entity. No, Swamiji, it's not necessary. Today, nowadays, we have houses which we do for investment. Please, that is limitation of example. How many people, they buy houses and lock it and keep, that investment purpose they have kept. I don't stretch that example so far. It is the limitation of the example. The point is, this whole creation is there. If there are no living beings in the creation, then what is the objective of the creation? That infinite reality wants to become many, not in terms of inertness, in terms of sentiency. So he created prana first. Now, this mantra also, there is a long bhashya given here. Before going into this bhashya, we have to understand some basics, because this commentary goes into the discussion between Sankhya and Vedanta. Because the doership and the enjoyership will be discussed now, that Purusha, is he doer, is he enjoyer, is he both, is he none, all that will come now. One of the main opponents of Vedanta is Sankhya. Now the Sankhya that we know today and the Sankhya of Kapil Muni in Bhagavatam, Kapil Muni is son of Devahuti. Kardam Rishi and Devahuti Mata, their son is Kapil Muni, he is an avatar of Bhagavan Vishnu himself. And he gives the knowledge of Sankhya to Mother Devahuti to liberate her. That Sankhya is equal to Vedanta only. There is no difference between that Sankhya. So if you read Kapil Gita of Bhagavatam, the Kapil Gita of Bhagavatam and Vedanta are same. Oh, but then why it is called Sankhya? It is called Sankhya because of two reasons. One, Samyak Khyayate iti Sankhya. That which describes very well is Sankhya. What does it describe very well? Our true nature as infinite consciousness, our oneness with that infinite consciousness, and the entire process of how this creation comes about, and it is a mithya, it is not real, and you are that infinite reality, which is Vedanta. So it is called Sankhya, and that's why we find that second chapter of the Gita also is called Sankhya Yoga. It is called Sankhya Yoga because it indicates absolute truth. So many verses in that second chapter, they indicate absolute truth. So one reason is that Samyak Khyayate iti Sankhya. Second reason is Sankhya means number. Sankhya speaks of 24 tattvas, Prakriti, and how the creation evolves out of these 24 tattvas. 5 senses of knowledge, 5 senses of action, 5 elements, 5 pranas, mind, intellect, memory, ego. This is one classification of 24. So these 24 aspects, they come out of that Purusha. So Purusha and Prakriti. In that, Purusha is Akarta, Abhokta. In the presence of Purusha, that Prakriti functions. This is Vedanta, proper Vedanta. So that original Sankhya of Kapil Muni is not different from Vedanta, and that is not what Shankaracharya counters. In the later part in history, in the 5th century, so there was another Kapil Muni who came about, a person called Kapila, not Kapil Muni, a person called Kapila who formed the Sankhya Sutras. I'm just going to tell you that one. The background of this we have to know clearly before we go into the Bhashya. So here, the Sankhya Pravachana Sutra is today available. The Sankhya philosophy that is available today, and which Shankaracharya ji also countered, the Sankhyans, that is not the Sankhya of Kapil Muni. That is the Sankhya based on Ishvara Krishna's Karika in 5th century CE. Ishvara Krishna wrote 70 sutras. And those 70 sutras sorry, I made a mistake. Ishvara Krishna wrote Karika, so commentary on the 70 sutras, which are written by this other Kapil, philosopher Kapil. Now we confuse this philosopher Kapila with Kapil Muni. Now that we have to be clear, they are different. Why it is so? Because in those Karikas itself, there is a reference of the earlier Kapil Muni and then Asuri and Panchashikha, etc. So before Buddha was this philosopher Kapila who composed the Sankhya Sutras, and unfortunately those Sankhya Sutras also were lost. Then Ishvara Krishna composes this Karikas, the 70 Karikas, and those are what the Sankhya of today is based on. So 5th century CE, what Ishvara Krishna composed is what is available today. So that is the Karika which is available today. That philosophical treatise that Kapila wrote, that is lost. But based on that, the 70 sutras are composed. And in that is a description of Prakriti and Purusha, the theory of whole creation, and Sankhya does not believe in God. So more details about Sankhya I will tell you in the next class. I don't want to start the topic and leave it half today, but it's very interesting. Sankhya is Nirishwara Yoga, and Yoga is called Saishwara Sankhya. So Sankhya is the theoretical aspect, Yoga is the practical aspect. Both, if you combine, then you may realize the truth, which and then one may come somewhere close to Vedanta. So Sankhya does not believe in God, and that's why one of the main opponents of Shankaracharya ji is of Vedanta is the Sankhyan school. And so here we find that these 24 categories is Prakriti and the Purusha enlivening it, but the view of Sankhya about Prakriti and Purusha is very different. For them, Prakriti and Purusha both are eternal, and Purusha is not one, Purusha are many. Vedanta says no, Purusha is one. So like that, there are differences, technical differences are there. That once we understand, then we will go into this Bhashya, because when the mantra here says Sa Iksham Chakre, he desired. Now the discussion will go on into, is Purusha the Karta? Because the creation, is the source of creation. So did he create this whole creation? Sankhya says no, he is not the Karta, he is only the Bhokta. Karta is Prakriti. Purusha cannot be the Karta. All that is Sankhyan view. Purusha is only the enjoyer. The doer is Prakriti. Vedanta says no, Purusha is neither Karta nor Bhokta. Purusha is one, Sankhya says Purusha is many. Like that, some differences are there. We will see those in the next class. My suggestion again is, please read the Bhashya so that you are familiar with what the discussion there is. You may not understand fully, but that's all right. That's how we will when we do in the next class, it will become more easy to understand. We will have class next Saturday, though it may or may not have been put in the schedule in the dates, but we will have class next week. So for today, we will stop here. Yes, Minaji, what's the question?
Hari Om Swamiji Pranam. Swamiji, I have two questions, if I may. First is from the point of view of seeing the creation, like as a reflection from Pratibhasik Satta. When we say that Ishwar is Anant Koti Brahman Nayak, does that mean that when we refer to the Virat Roop of the Lord, so that Virat Roop, that total gross body is all the Brahmans? Is that how it's like everything that's manifest?
Yeah, that's how it is.
So numeral. Then Swamiji, following from that, then do we understand there is only one Hiranyagarbha for all those total gross bodies, or
there has to be only one, no? There cannot be for every Brahmanda one Hiranyagarbha.
Right. Okay. So then Swamiji, earlier on, I think it was in this Upanishad only, right? I understood that Brahmaji is referred to as Hiranyagarbha. Is that right? But then that's not, but then we say, no, each Brahman has its own Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. Is that?
See that each Brahmanda has its own Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh is only to explain the fact that Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh also are only positions and they are not the ultimate. Ultimate reality is only one consciousness. So to understand that, it is explained that every Brahmanda, there is a separate Brahmaji, Brahma, Vishnu and Mahesh. Because when we forget that aspect and we think that Brahmaji or Vishnu or Shiva by themselves are the form is everything. He says no. The form is limited because that Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh also will the form will dissolve at the time of Pralay.
Right.
And they will come into being again only when the next Srishti happens. But that source from where they come and into which they go back, which is this Purusha, which is what Taittiriya Upanishad defines Brahman as. That yato va imani bhutani jayante yena jatani jivante yasmin prayanti abhisamvishanti iti, in which they go back again. That is Brahman. Tad Brahma Vijignyasa. So to know Brahman, we have to go beyond this form of Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh also. So it is to explain that it is said. Because Hiranyagarbha cannot be so many Hiranyagarbhas.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Ishvara, then that will mean Ishwaras are so many.
Ishwaras are so many. Right. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Swamiji. Swamiji, one more question.
And one minute. Even if you say Hiranyagarbha is so many and Ishvara is so many, it is one only appearing as so many, if at all one wants to say that.
That's right.
So either we take the one from absolute level one and then so many, but that so many is appearance of same one. So it is one only.
Right. Yes, Swamiji. Understood. Thank you, Swamiji. And Swamiji, the other question, I'm not sure how to phrase it, but it's, see, in Bhakti Shastra, there's the episode of Mirabai, who, when she dropped the body, she basically said, okay, she went into her beloved, she went into the idol. And how to understand that as a Vedantin?
Effect goes back to the cause, number one. Always the effect will merge back into the cause. That's a Vedantic explanation. Then physically, one says that that is a metaphor, I think, to even explain that the identification of Mirabai with Bhagwan Krishna was so high that materially also as a body, she merged with Krishna. Because then her body is no more just a body like five elements. She transcended those limitations of the five elements and she experienced oneness with the consciousness, that even her body is transformed and she goes into the idol of Bhagwan Krishna, if at all one wants to explain that as symbolic aspect. But otherwise, from Vedantic aspect, the effect has merged into the cause. The sense of Jiva Bhav is destroyed. So there is absolute oneness only that she experiences. And so one says that she dropped the body, she merged into Krishna. Same way they say about Andal also. So those are possibly for glorifying them also, and also maybe for making the layman understand that how great their devotion was, that they didn't have a separation. Their their surrender and identification was so complete.
Thank you, Swamiji. Hari Om. Thank you.
Hari Om, Swamiji. So, Swamiji, my question was that in the Shed Darshana, when we say Sankhya, that Sankhya is the same as the Kapil, not Kapil Muni, but the Kapil
Ishvara Krishna.
Ishvara Krishna.
Ishvara Krishna Sankhya, yeah.
Okay. And Swamiji, in the Bhagavad Gita, when we say Sankhya Yoga, that has again any connection with this philosophy, or that is not?
No, Bhagavad Gita Sankhya Yoga of second chapter is equal to Vedant.
Right.
And the reason why Sankhya Yoga is being used there is what I explained earlier, that it indicates the absolute truth very well. Okay. So it is called Samyak Khyayate, it is Sankhya. And in the 13th chapter, certain verses will come, which I will explain in the next class. Those verses are the Sankhya philosophy of Ishvara Krishna, where this Purusha and Prakriti, the difference between Vedanta and Sankhya, you can see clearly. So when we don't have a background of Sankhya philosophy of Ishvara Krishna, and then we read the 13th chapter, those verses, Purusha Prakriti Stohi Bhungte Prakriti Jan Gunan Karanam Guna Sangosya Sadasad Yoni Janmasu, all those shlokas, they will confuse, saying how suddenly Purusha has become the Bhokta now, and he is not the Karta but he is a Bhokta. That is because that is Krishna is referring to the Sankhya philosophy in that of this Ishvara Krishna, yeah. Okay. So that school of thought would have existed in Mahabharata time of that Kapila. But that school of thought got lost. So obviously Ishvara Krishna Sankhya I am using only so that it becomes very clear to us that 13th chapter refers to that Sankhya, not Vedanta. Ishvara Krishna is 5th century, Mahabharata is before 5th century. But Ishvara Krishna's 70 sutras are based on that earlier philosopher Kapila, who would have been there and whose philosophy would have been there at that time of Mahabharata. So then Krishna Bhagavan uses that and he refutes that part. So that is 13th chapter. In there, that philosophy of this philosopher Kapil comes. But otherwise, second chapter is proper Vedanta only, which we may say is Kapil Muni's Sankhya.
Thank you so much. This was very interesting.
Right. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.